This is the area where the famous Jogeswari cave temples of Mumbai are located. As we can see, there are a lot of small houses here as well as big houses and many slums. This is a heavily populated area, and when one comes here, it is impossible to find the entrance to these cave temples. From the main street, when we turn to the right, then we find a small hillock which in front of which is a passage. As we can see, there is a stone passage made in the center of the hill, and on either sides we can find big walls. This is the entrance of the Jogeswari cave temples, one of the most ancient cave temples in the state of Maharashtra in India. These cave temples date back to the 5th and the 6th century and probably were made just after the construction of the Ajanta caves and prior to the construction or excavation of the Elephanta caves. There is a straight path which leads us directly into the hill in which we can find the main gate. Very few people, even living in Mumbai, are aware of the presence of the caves, and even those who are aware rarely visit these caves. These caves are an architectural wonder, however, they have never got the importance which normally is there for the Ajanta caves, Ellora caves, or the Elephanta caves. It is not clear whether this was the main entrance or the backside, but on the main wall we can find some geometrical and floral patterns which have been made at the entrance of this gate. We can find some images of men and women, some animals, and some floral and geometrical prints. On the right side and the left side of this main gate, there are two niches in which at some stage of time there would have been some very beautiful sculptures of the gods and deities. However, presently the condition of this portion is very bad. It has almost got damaged over a period of time because of the natural weathering of rock as well as because of heavy population. Here there are some remnants of the sculptures which would have been there at some stage of time. As we can see, the condition of the sculptures is almost decimated. Only the hands and torsos and at some places the legs are visible. The head of most of the sculptures here has been lost forever. It is very difficult to guess the type of sculptures which were originally there because of the damage caused over a passage of time. Similar type of cave is also available on the left side of the main entrance. At the top we can find some deities which have been made. From the look and the feel, this cave gives the feeling of a Buddhist shrine. We can find typical Buddhist artwork at the door portal and at other places at the entrance gate. These caves need immediate restoration. As we can see from the condition of the various panels, this very sad state of affairs, and this needs immediate restoration. As we enter the main hall, we find huge pillars surrounding a shrine. These pillars are all square in shape, and light is filtering from the various sides from the outer walls of the cave. This is a very big hall, and it is surrounded by columns on all the sides. There is one door which leads us to a veranda, a very open veranda which is more than 30 to 40 meters in length. This is the front view of the veranda, and just on the front right side there is a temple dedicated to Lord Shiva. This is a view of the veranda surrounding the main hall. Here we can see multiple huge pillars which reminds us of the pillars at Elephanta. On the floor, we can see some prayer material. It seems that people come here and do various religious ceremonies. Some beautiful windows have been made on the walls, and this is the place through which light filters from outside world to the inside of the great hall. At the window also, beautiful pilasters have been made, and at the top there were some iconographies which have got destroyed over a period of time. Some of the carvings were visible, which we are trying to bring it to your notice. As we move ahead, the amount of excavation in this cave, this is one of the most highly excavated caves and one of the biggest excavated structures in India, maybe just after the Nasik caves at Ellora. This is another window made on the side walls, outer wall of the great hall for proper light and ventilation. Beautifully carved pillars can be seen. And here, just opposite the passage, we find another cave where probably the roof has fallen down over a period of time. Now we shall be entering the other area of the cave, and to reach there we have to pass through a narrow passage. This passage opens up through a very small door, as we can see here. This area was dark and full of a lot of filth and sewage. It was very difficult to walk here without getting the shoes dirty. A natural area between the two hills have been used to create a passage, and here we can find an image of a deity which is highly damaged. Here we can find steps on the right side which would take us to the top of this area, and on the left side we can find a water passage which has been made, which will, during the rainy season, the water which would accumulate will pass through this area into the central area where the water would be stored. This is another gate on the left side which comes out from the main hall. Here again we find one more gate on the left side which would lead us otherwise to another shrine. At the bottom of the door, we find many sculptures which are highly deteriorated condition. Here we are trying to have a look at the top of the hill. This gives us the overall perception of depth of these caves and how much they have been carved. There is a statue animal which would have been carved. We can see the legs. However, the body is highly damaged. It seems as if this would have been the image of some buffalo. Here we find the other side of the wall panel, and we can find that this is a damp area and there is a lot of seepage. Seepage in these cave temples has been a very big problem since many years, and not much effort has gone on to take care of this. Here we find another shrine which will take us to the main temple inside the main grand hall. At the bottom we find certain sculptures of deities, but because of the damage it is very difficult to understand and analyze which are these deities. The door portal at the top also has certain iconographies and images. As we enter this shrine, we find an antechamber. This antechamber has huge pillars on the left and the right side, and there's a door in the center. On the right and the left, we find two colossal images of certain deities, and at the top, a story has been depicted in the form of sculptures. The lower portion of these images is destroyed. However, the headgear and the muscular body of these images is intact. We can find the Janeu or the sacred thread which is coming out from the left shoulder and up to the waist. At the top we find certain artwork which is still there. This artwork was created almost more than 1600 years ago and shows the life of those times. We find here men, women, animals and various other depictions. These type of iconographies remind us of the various sculptures at the Sanchi Stupa. The type of work is almost similar. However, the rock used here is basalt and is not amenable to finer carvings. This is another image on the right side where we find a dwarf and a very muscular figure which looks like a king or a god, and at the top we find a very beautiful carving on the wall. At the center we can see a cow or a buffalo and few male and female figures. The central figure seems like Lord Shiva with many rishis and monks praying to the god. This is the main gate which would lead us to the main hall. As we try to go nearer to the main shrine, we come back again to the main hall. This is a huge hall, more than 240 feet by 240 feet, and in the center is a shrine. Presently it is dedicated to Devi Jogeswari. At the entrance of the hall we find Nandiji sitting here, and there also is the damaged images of Lord Ganesha. Here we can see Lord Ganesha, which is damaged very badly, and some figures of male and female nearby it. This area is very dark, and photography as well as videography in this area is very difficult. The central shrine has a grill, and then when we go through the grill, we find another mini shrine inside, and in that there is an image of Sri Jogeswari Mata Prasanna. She is adorned, garlanded, ornamented, and almost hidden because of the clothes she is wearing. This is a view of the grand hall from one side, and here we can see huge pillars which have been made. There are doors on multiple sides. Now slowly we shall be having a look at this hall. On the left is the shrine which we just entered. This massive hall reminds us of the main hall of the Elephanta Caves, massive pillars in it. This is another area in the cave temple where we find a passage, and on the left and the right side we find high platforms. On the left side is actually the temple of Lord Ganesha. Here we can find some young children who have come here for playing and enjoyment of this area. These are the steps which will take us to the top of the hill. These steps were also the natural passage for the rainwater, which would slowly trickle down from the top of the hill, and through these steps will come down in the central area and will be stored as fresh water in the various water cisterns which were excavated here. On either side of these steps we find some crevices which were probably residing places. And here at the top we find the various big buildings which have come up here, and this was an area which had lot of hutments and was almost slum-like, and this area has presently become a dumping ground of all the garbage of the city. It is really very sad that this beautiful monument, which is under the protection of Archaeological Survey of India, is having such a bad condition. On the right side is the board of the Archaeological Survey of India. This is a look of the caves from the top of the hill. Here we can find the amount of excavation of the rock which would have been done. This is also the area where the rainwater from the top would get collected and could be used during the summer season. The local people come here to relax, to study, to play, to gamble, and to do lot of things which are legal and illegal. At the top we find huge trees which are there. This is a view of the narrow passage through which we have climbed this area, and on the left bottom we can see the water channel. There was a time when this whole area was highly encroached and there were a lot of slums and hutments, but some effort has been done to remove the unauthorized structures. However, still a lot needs to be done. Very few people in Maharashtra and even in the city of Mumbai are aware of the presence of these caves, and these caves are definitely not on the tourist map of the local people as well as the tourists who come from other states or other countries. These caves, which are ancient caves, can definitely be managed better with little love and affection and little effort. We can see on one side a shed has been made which is being used by the local people. Here also we can find some young boys idling around in these beautiful caves. As we come down, we find that at an upper niche an area has been excavated and it says Datt Mandir. Slowly we shall be entering this so-called Datt Mandir and try to see what lies inside. A small veranda has been made which faces the main area. In the front we can see a bench which has been dug out in the hillside, probably for taking rest. This would have been a sleeping or a resting area for the earlier people, and inside we find a small cave, and in the cave there is a small temple. This is a front view from the cave. As we enter the small cave, on the left side also some area has been made for resting, and when we go inside we find the image. This has been converted into a shrine at a later stage of time. This probably was a living quarter for the monks who were staying here. The good thing is that There are fresh flowers and prayer articles and a burning oil lamp, which shows that people come here regularly to pray at this small temple. Now we are moving out of the cave. A small iron fence has been made because the area in front has a lot of depth. This is the board of the Archaeological Survey of India, which says that this is a protected monument. It is time to go back in the another shrine which is at the base of this hill. This was the steps which we had used to come at the top of the hill. Now we are going back down inside the cave temple. There are high flat walls excavated from the hill rocks, and in front is the huge door. Presently we do not find any sculptures or carvings here. However, this leads us to another passage. This passage on the right and the left side has two shrines. The pillars, it has a platform on the left and the right side. The pillars are stout and massive. On the right side is another shrine dedicated to Lord Hanuman, the monkey god. This raised platform has around 6 pillars, square in base, slowly tapering as they go up, and then a huge image of Lord Ganesha, the elephant-headed god. Now we are out of the Ganesha shrine, and in the center of this temple complex, here we can see huge walls which have been dug out from the hill. This is the typical basalt rock, a variety called breccia. We are back at the original area. Here we find a dwarf and a male deity with a sword in his hand, curly hairs, and some floral prints on the top. This is the natural deterioration of the rock icons, and here we find a very strange figure. The nose and the mouth is very clear, however, the other parts are missing. This is the passage which leads us to the main hall where the central shrine is located. As we can see, a lot of excavation has gone in to create this passage, and the stone steps have also been excavated from the mother mountain rock. As we pass through the passage on the left side, we find another shrine which has been carved inside the mountain face. This small cave type structure also has the image, a sculpture of Lord Hanuman. So, what we have found today is that in this cave, wherever the residential quarters were there, they have been converted into shrines, and the image of Lord Hanuman has been placed, which apparently is not a integral part of the mountain rock. Now we are in the main veranda of this rock cut temple at Jogeswari, and here we find many other smaller caves. Most of the caves do not have any sculptures, and the columns of the caves, as we can see, have also deteriorated a lot, leading to the instability of this cave temple. These pillars need to be strengthened with grouting and other civil engineering measures so that the roof of these caves do not collapse. These areas probably were also the residing quarters. Here we find three sculptures, a panel in which there is a male, female, and probably a child. The male is made very muscular with a beautiful necklace and other ornaments. However, time and people have defaced it over a period of time. This is the side passage adjacent to the main hall, where we find huge pillars aligned in a single line. In this temple, in a corner, there was a Shiva shrine. This Shiva shrine appears to be comparatively new. Now we have come back in the main central hall. This was the Jogeswari cave temples at Mumbai in the state of Maharashtra. Now is the time to say goodbye to these temples.